Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this Saturday morning show. We are going to talk about between tenancies this morning and how to turn a rental void into a profit booster. So if you're a landlord and investor and things, this is going to be really relevant to you, and hopefully we could give you some tips and advice on how to make those void periods, if you have one, a lot better for your buy-to-let portfolio, or indeed even if you just have one property, but to make it a more profitable period. And as we say, void periods are not ideal, but every rental home needs to it needs some updating at some point. So from simple wear and tear to that, the evolving technology we have and designs, or changes in the law around, living standards, energy efficiency, which is the big one at the moment. Rental voids are usually viewed as that negative period and a negative light, but they're that ideal point for enhancing your investment and elevating its appeal, just as a top athlete possibly spends time on their off-season, refining their performance and things. Think of it like that, like this period, right? Okay, instead of looking at it in a dark light, like, oh, I've got an empty property, like let's make this property amazing, and use this time while it's vacant to do that. With some thoughtful planning, you can use the time between tenancies to significantly increase your rental income, improve the quality of tenants that you attract. And you could do that by focusing on certain areas, and we're going to try and cover them as much as we can this morning. We're going to kick off with looking at these minor fix-up points, and then we're going to look at major renovations, also look at future-proofing measures, and then that the marketing makeover, that's something that's really important, and how your property is marketed. And then reviewing your rental strategy. We're going to round up by reviewing your rental strategy and see if that's something that needs to be tweaked and needs to be looked at. And given that renovating is almost always cheaper and faster than selling and buying again, let's explore how you can maximize the time between tenancies to boost your long-term returns. Kerin, you're going to kick us off by talking about these minor fixing up points.
Yeah, so as a landlord, whenever a tenancy is coming to an end, even if your property doesn't need a major overhaul, plan a few days to address any minor wear and tear, fix small repairs, and make little improvements. And we've seen this time and time again. The one tenant can be quite happy with things, and another tenant moves in and there can be some teething issues. So it's good to give yourself that time to go in and address what's needing, maybe a wee bit of attention, and just make it as presentable as possible for your next tenancy, and to attract the best quality tenants as well. I always say the better you put out, the better you attract in.
Yes, I think there's another saying that goes with that, but we won't say it on a Saturday.
So we'll start off with tackling cosmetic issues like scuffed paintwork, chipped skirting boards, loose door handles, loose window handles, cupboards, and fingerprint marks on switches and sockets. Now, I'll say door handles is a good one. This is always something that I do when I'm going in to do listing pictures. I'm always very wary of what doors I'm shutting at the back of me, just in case it's loose. You don't want to get stuck in a room anywhere. So just little things going in and making sure, and it keeps your eye as well off any like scuff marks. It just makes the property seem cleaner as well for it. So as well, things like considering instant kitchen upgrades, like replacing worktops, cupboard fronts or handles. These can refresh the entire look without needing to rip the whole thing out. And I think people have become a lot more savvy with like their kitchen upgrades, for example, and doing things. But my advice when you're doing kitchen upgrades is make sure you do something that's going to give you longevity out of it. These wraps and painting can look great, but is it really renter friendly? It's different maybe if it's for yourself. But
that's what I was just going to say. We've got one like this that we manage, and we were looking at the kitchen, and I was thinking, right, okay, we could do the fronts, and we could do a new worktop here, and our contractor went and looked, and it might not be, the most economically way forward, because I think once he actually had a look, and so it pays to, we thought possibly that's what we could do by giving it a facelift, let's say. But the contractor then come back and says, look, there's certain things like you'd be better maybe just. So we're getting prices for both ends and seeing what is the best approach. But yeah, it's good to do a facelift, but make sure it's not just a cover up, basically.
Yeah, as I say, it's different when you're in your own house and you're maybe being a bit more careful, but I would say you always need to be a bit more prepared for wear and tear when it comes to rented properties. So something that's going to give you the longevity out of it and not just maybe like a few months or a year or two out of it. So
especially if you've got a kitchen where there's going to be a family.
Mhm.
Different if it's a small flat and you're maybe going to have a single person, and that's not going to have so much wear and tear. But if you've got a 3-bedroom property that's going to have a family in it, you better make sure that you've got stuff that's durable in there, because wear and tear will happen with a family.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And other simple things such as clean or fresh grouting and sealant is often all it takes to revive bathroom tiles, where replacing scaly taps or shower heads can restore that missing sparkle as well. Now, this is another really good one I would advise you check regardless when your tenant comes out, is check your bath seals, check the grout's all intact still, because it's one of those things that is an easy fix, but if it gets to the point where it's not being kept up to date and it's maybe the seal's broken or burst or the grout's maybe missing a bit, it can cause a big leak, which can be rotten floorboards, it can be water damage. So checking these things in between tenancies is just good practice, I would say.
Do you know what? The seals around baths and bathrooms and things, and even around worktops and kitchens and things, is so important, because water will find a way. But and just as you talk about like scaly taps and things as well, you might not need to replace taps. They might just need a really good clean. And it's amazing to have a nice, clean, fresh, especially the bathroom, I feel. Nice, clean, shiny taps and sink and wash hand basin and things. It just makes so much a difference. If you walk into a property and it's not, it's a wee bit, grubby, it's so off-putting. So yeah, make sure that it's clean and sparkling.
Yeah, so different tips for inside, but also your curb appeal is really important as well. Yeah. So look at what you can improve there, whether it's giving your front door a fresh coat of paint, if you've got a wooden door there, sweeping the pathways, clear any junk, and add some nice plants or some wee pots outside just to keep that curb appeal up. First impressions count, so... And that's what's going to be on as well for getting your photos done for it going on the market. This is what is going to be posted out to the public. Basically, anybody can see it. So making sure your property is looking in its best shape is definitely advisable there.
Yeah.
But as well as your outside spaces. So if your property has a garden or a balcony, ensure it's neat, inviting and low maintenance. So that means cutting the grass, jet washing patios or decking, keeping the deck and paint up to date as well, so it's not all flaky and getting the chance to get rotten, and ensuring fences are secure and removing any weeds, especially in this weather when they're going like wildfire.
Outside space, even if it's just a small space, could be such an appealing part of a property for someone, that maybe coming from a flat or doesn't have that much outside space, and just to make sure it's tidy and in order, and like you say, no weeds and things. It's quite a simple thing to do, especially if it's just a small space. But it could be such a big selling point. I say selling point, but we're talking about rentals. But you know what I mean? It could really push that forward.
Nice, attractive quality for somebody where you get the best tenant in. We love finding cost-effective upgrades for rented homes. So in Fife as well, and so give us a call. We can have a wee chat about it if you've got any things that you're not sure about, what would benefit your property. We're happy to help. We do it with our landlords when they're maybe in the initial stages, they're not sure, or even in between tenancies, if you need some advice on a few little tweaks could make a surprisingly large difference to your property. We're happy to help there.
Yeah, definitely. And just these minor, like you say, these minor fixes can make all the difference. But then also you can be looking at sometimes major renovations, and they might be necessary. And there's a right way to do that. And the key to any major renovation at your rental property is to make it, like you said, Kerin, even with the minor things, to make it timeless, make it hard wearing, and as hard wearing as possible. Especially, like I say, if your target audience is family units and things, and ensuring you've got that years of reliable service with minimal repairs or replacements required. It's like, if you buy cheap, you buy twice type thing. Get those really good quality, mid-range stuff, and fixtures, fittings, materials. Get a good contractor who will fit it correctly, and you're not going to have to revisit it during the tenancy and have a further cost on top of that. A complete redecoration of a property, possibly in a warm, modern, and stylish, neutral tone, is quite good. So not magnolia,
Yes, I'm waiting for that.
I know that's why you're laughing, Kerin, not magnolia.
Yes, stick with nice neutral colours such as white or warm, just nice neutral warm tones. But always advise something that can be easily touched up as well. We've had landlords that maybe had the experience of trying to go for these nice warm colours, but unfortunately they've gone for this really good quality paint. But ultimately, when it's need touched up, it just doesn't touch up very well. Whereas if you're going with white, white touches up. So white can be quite a good way to go for there. Even greys, you get so many different shades of grey. So white's probably your safest bet there for something renter friendly and touch upable.
Yeah, I mean, doing this could really transform the entire look of a room and indeed the whole property. You did say that there is some really good high quality paints. Do be careful about trying to do the touch ups. There's one actually, I think, I don't know what I mentioned. It begins with a V, and it's meant to be like the really, really high quality, and I just don't rate it. I really don't. But anyway, I don't know if you've used that, Kerin, but I have them. Anyway, but
I think
something
it might be what's in my bathroom. But to be fair, it doesn't look great to start with, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt if it's the same one. It fades in eventually.
let's say it's Valspar. It's Valspar.
Yeah, I think that's what
And I just don't rate it, and I know that I thought that you've used it, and I've had the problem with it, and I know other people that have bought it, and it's just not what it's for the price that you pay for it. For one small can, even just it's expensive. So, go for some of the other ones that have got really good coverage and durability, and like you say, you could even just touch up those small bits rather than having to repaint all over again. And
I'd say making sure you're using the right paint for things as well. Like if you're in a kitchen, use kitchen paint. If you're in a bathroom, use bathroom paint. Don't just go and buy the cheapest tin of white that you can get and just slap it all over the whole house. Like make sure you are putting it in the right room, especially bathrooms and kitchens. They are obviously, and like you say, if you've got a family unit or even just if you do have somebody on their own, these are areas that are going to take a lot of like heat, different changes in temperatures. So having a paint that's going to last and be potentially wipeable, as well as being like in a bathroom mold friendly as well. So you can just clean it off if you do get condensation build up, especially in the climate that we're in. We're so prone to condensation, and people get really confused with saying that they've got mold. Well, they do, but it's just because of the changes in temperatures. It's easily wipeable as well. But getting a paint on it that is sprayable, wipeable as well can be good for tenants, just to keep on top of the cleanliness of it.
Yeah, definitely. And we say about bathrooms and things there, and I think in the bathroom, for me, I think definitely is to kind of keep it classic with white porcelain and the bare metal and plain textured tiles, or possibly these the wet wall sheets. But I think you get some wet wall sheets that are the pattern on them could be quite takes over the whole bathroom. Yeah, it could take over. So wet wall's a really good thing. It's easily kept, nicely wiped down and things as well. But and if you're going to put in storage things, choose maybe wet metal or wood storage, and things that are going to stand the test of time. As these chipboard and lower cost ones, like these budget ones, they will soak up the water and they will swell and they will crumble, and that's, you don't. I mean, I'm not saying spend hundreds of pounds on storage units or vanity units or things, but if you're going to put them in, put something that's a lot more durable and will stand the test of time.
And like we say as well, just that classic style, something, I mean, if you're doing like a bathroom up, for example, or a kitchen, it can be great to kind of get that little bit carried away and put your personal touch on it. But ultimately you need something that is fairly neutral. So at least it's going to appeal to a lot of different people. Color schemes as well, like you can go in, and I mean, a color is not for everybody. So at least if it's nice and neutral, that it should appeal to anyone. And then people can add their own little personal touches if they do want those splashes of color, whether it's like nice little trinkets in the bathroom, or obviously like nice coloured cushions or couches in the living room if you've got white walls. So if you keep it plain, it gives tenants a scope, a nice blank canvas to accessorise how they want.
Do you know, things with bathrooms as well, and something that's really on trend at the moment is the black fixtures and fittings, and the which I really like, and I think are quite on trend. But will they be in 5 years' time? And
they just don't seem to age well either. Yeah. Like just I've even from like a maintenance aspect, like they look lovely. They're very appealing just now for people. However, they just, from the ones that I've seen, whether it's like taps or just different fixtures as well, they just don't seem to have aged very well, and like they don't stand the test of time, I would say, from what I've seen.
Stick to chrome. I think stick to chrome is a safe bet, because they do still look quite stylish. They'll always be on trend. I don't think they're really ever going to go out of trend. They'll always be quite nice to look at, and in 5 years' time, you're not going to have to think, oh God, they look awful, I'm going to have to change them. So
yeah, I think black is, although it's trendy just now, it's probably not going to be in the future. So keeping things neutral and future-proof, we'll say.
Yeah. And then into the kitchen, these flat-fronted kitchen cabinets are the easiest to keep clean. Stainless steel cooker tops, appliances are they're the most like timeless things. Like I say, stainless steel, it's the same as chrome in the bathroom. They're easily cleaned down. They will stand the test of time. They are timeless in terms of on trend. If you're going to do like washing machines, dishwashers, fridge freezers and things, they look their best when they're actually integrated into the kitchen. If you could just hide them away, if you can. If not, make sure you've got a good quality appliance in there that's, again, going to stand the test of time, and you're not going to have to repair and replace. Again, it's the I mean, I'm not going to say go out and buy like AEG and all these expensive makes. You get really good mid-range quality hot point and things, do them, but just make sure that you're not putting setting third-hand appliances in a property for someone to use, especially like a family unit and things. It's going to be using a washing machine once, twice a day at least, because it's going to have a new fan belt soon, and then it's going to have this, and it's going to need a new seal, and then before you know it, you've done about 3 or 4 repairs, and then you have to buy a new one. See it all the time.
Yeah, and when it comes to white goods as well, obviously quite a lot of tenants. I mean, cookers, I would say, like oven hobs, they're pretty much standard. Like everybody kind of, I would say, expects them to be in a property. When it comes to things like fridge freezers and washing machines, it is very 50-50. Some people have them and they want to bring their own. Some people don't have them. So when it comes to them, it can be very dependent on the tenant that you've got in, whether you're going to need them or not.
Yeah.
Or whether it's beneficial to have them or not, we'll say.
Yeah, some people do look for white goods, others don't. It just depends. But there is no obligation to have them as part of the let. I do always think that it's good practice to have the integrated oven, hob and extractor. So then at least you're providing cooking facilities for someone coming in from like the very first day. I think it's always something that we tend to advise as part of the initial layout and set up for a property. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah,
and also
a lot of the like ovens and hobs are all built in now as well, so it's not like people really have. I mean, a washing machine you can pack it up and take it with you, whereas like an oven, it's not really expected that a lot of people have portable ones anymore.
Yeah, and like you say, new kitchen, if you're putting a new kitchen and things on, it's pretty standard that the oven, hob and extractor and things are going to come as part of that. So, and as I say, it's just good practice, I think, when you're putting people into a property that they have cooking facilities. Although it is not a mandatory thing. Anyway, replacing these like carpets, and if you've got worn out carpets and chipped laminate and things, these need to be replaced. If you've got floor coverings and that in there, they need to be they need to be intact, they need to be fit for purpose. Not a big fan of laminate in rental properties. If it's there already and it's things or whatever, then fair enough. But I wouldn't voluntarily put it down as an option straight away, because these, as I say, they're laminates mounted, unless you get hardwood ones and things, but they're expensive. Like normal laminates mounted on top of boards, and it'll soak up water like a sponge and expand, and just it's not a good look, and it won't stand the test of time in high traffic areas like the hallway and the lounge and things as well. So think about that. Like I say about the laminate, if you're going to do that, have it on try and get it on the quality like engineered boards, and that, I mean, it does add a really good warm feel having certain laminates and a wee bit of sophistication, especially in certain rooms. But I would always say have the higher quality down rather than these just your basic B&Q value range, because they won't last.
And typically the areas you would put laminate would probably be like a kitchen, and it's, again, that's where it's most likely to get, like you say, water on it, and it's going to end up swelling up. Or even in the living room, your high traction area, and it always seems to be the floorboards in the middle of the room that get the chip on them.
Yeah.
And that's not easy to replace. So it's at least with a carpet, obviously, unfortunately with a carpet, if it gets damaged, that's it kind of thing, if it's not going to come out. But with laminate, you could replace boards, but I mean, realistically, you're going to want to lift it all up just to get to one board in the middle of the floor.
Yeah, and the laminate's a good example of, you know, try and avoid these things that have delicate surfaces, you know, things that are quite difficult to repair, and prioritize like materials and finishes that will really last. And instead of jumping on the bandwagon with the latest fads, you know, like black fixtures and fittings for taps and things in bathrooms, think about it. You know, don't get wrapped up in what's on trend all the time. You know, chrome is still very much on trend and will be a lot more harder wearing, and you'll get a lot longer out of it. So think about that. Don't get caught up in some of these fads, because they might not be the right choice for your rental property. So, but then what about future proofing? Let's talk about longevity and thinking of the future. There is obviously a lot of future proofing measures, Kerin, so run us through some of them.
So the time between tenancies is an excellent opportunity to make future proofing upgrades that add long-term value, increase your rental income, and put your property on the radar for premium tenants. So as we say, better quality you put out, the better top quality of tenants that you're going to attract ultimately.
Obviously, we won't say the saying that goes with
you put nice in, you get nice out. So different things to consider are such as energy efficiency improvements like loft or wall insulation, draft exclusions around doors and windows, or installing double glazed for improved EPC rating and cheaper bills. So obviously the EPCs weren't something we really used to see too much of previously, but people have become a lot more conscious of it. Obviously the way that gas and electric's gone up, so having a property that is going to be a nice cozy home for somebody is obviously a good improvement to have there. So if you are doing things that can obviously upgrade your property's EPC rating, definitely beneficial. And they are obviously talking about implementing a minimum banding of a C, I believe it's gone to now.
EPC back to C,
yeah, so definitely it's good things for landlords to consider. Even when you're buying a property, look at the EPC rate and look at the potential for it. If you are going to have to bring it up to that band, how much it's going to cost you to get the work done for it.
But just on top of that, obviously, certain properties, if people's listening and think, God, I'll never get my property to a C, there are exemptions that will be put in place for, you know, if you spend X amount of thousand or whatever on improvements to improve the energy efficiency rating, and it doesn't reach that, then you will be granted an exemption, depending on, you know, if you're in an old cottage property where you can't put cavity wall insulation, and possibly the you know, you get suspended floor insulation, but it could cost like thousands and thousands, or there might not be room to do that either. You know, so there will be allowances and exemptions in place. So I mean, this EPC minimum banding has been kicked, the can's been kicked down the road quite a lot with it. We are approaching the deadline, but there will be exemptions, and of course there will be allowances made for people that have already outlaid or possibly can't implement the measures to make the EPC rating better.
Yeah, ultimately we have some properties that, despite landlords' best intentions, which we have seen, they're never going to get to that, just the style of properties that they are. We have a lot of farm cottages, a lot of older style properties in Fife, so there's just some that unfortunately they're never going to get to that. But if you do what you can to make it as energy efficient as possible, it's beneficial for both you as the landlord and then your tenant as well.
Of course, yeah.
But different things as well, such as smart home technology, including app-controlled thermostats, lighting, video call doorbells. They can be a major draw for a growing number of tech-savvy tenants. So, I mean, we see like Hive is in quite a few of our properties now. Still don't quite have my head around how to work that, but...
Yeah, we do have a few with Hives in it. I don't know if I would recommend putting Ring doorbells and things in for people, but obviously we have to cover it because technology is such a big thing nowadays. But
I would say have the option for a tenant to be able to put their own one up, because I mean a lot of like doorbells that you get these days, they are just stick-on ones that can just be placed on and not cause any structural damage to the door, for example, or its surroundings. So, but be aware as a landlord that is something that there's a high chance a tenant will want. I mean, I think a lot of people now do have like video doorbells just for their own security for it. I mean, it's probably in the days of it's going to end up replacing house alarms at this rate. So it does give people that extra security and feeling that bit safer in their home. So just as a landlord, be aware that that is something a tenant will, there's every chance they'll want to put up.
Yeah.
But thinking about things such as practical and aesthetic touches, like adding more power sockets to cater for today's gadget culture, or swapping plain radiators for designer models to elevate the interior style as well. And again, even this will relate to your EPC rating as well. If you've got like your single panel radiators, fitting some more modern double paneled ones could obviously improve the energy efficiency of the property and just give out better heat when the radiators are on.
Yeah, I do. I think that, you know, radiators are an amazing thing. That, like you say, if you've got a single panel, you could do the double. You get all of these. You get really nice vertical ones, depending on the area of the house. You've also got heated towel rails in the bathroom and things can be really good. And then, like you say about the sockets, and I'm not saying do this in every room, because I know the sockets with the charging ports like the USB and things in them, they are more expensive than just a normal one. But to have one possibly in a certain corner of the living room, or, you know, I have one in my kitchen. I have one in my kitchen along the end where we plug the Ring doorbell in to charge it up and plug our phones in and things, and it's just so handy. I wouldn't put them in every room of the house or whatever, but I've got one there, and it's like life-changing.
Yeah, they're beneficial to have anyway. And to be fair, they're probably not that much more expensive if you are going to the effort of changing the sockets.
Greatly, they are a wee bit more expensive, obviously. But
and again, like if you've got like cracked sockets, things like that, little changes like that can make such a difference as well. And if you are replacing them maybe with some nice like chrome ones, or like you say, ones with USB, just it can elevate the room. Just having that better quality socket or light switch in it as well makes all the difference.
Yeah, definitely. And those wee touches, those little touches, not wee, sorry. Wee is a Scottish word, W-E-E, but these little touches are things that tenants will pick up on, especially younger generation who are a lot more tech savvy and think about their phones and their laptops and their tablets and their doorbells and, you know, things like that. And those little touches will appeal to them, definitely.
And I've seen it doing viewings, like when people are coming in, like they do look and you do notice if the socket has one of the USB ports on it, because they're like, oh, it's got that. So it is something that people do look at, and it can be a beneficial thing to have. As we're saying, don't go and replace all your sockets with them, but it can be handy to have the odd one, like we say, like a living room or a bedroom, even a kitchen, where people are usually going to be sitting like charging their phones, for example. It's a good spot to have them.
Yeah, definitely.
But there is obviously, we have some marketing makeovers. So Richard, do you want to run us through that?
Yeah, so marketing makeovers, an empty property gives you that blank canvas for a really compelling marketing side of things. And with no tenants' belongings, you know, to kind of try and navigate around to do new photos, you could really showcase any kind of enhancements in their full and uninterrupted glory as such. So invest in possibly new and high quality photography. You know, we have a really good photographer who does our photos, and you know, it's just that little bit extra, and it makes it look so much better. Use a mix of wide angles and some close-up images. Don't overdo it. I think I've seen some listings, and it's like there's just far too much going on, and you know, there's a lot of close-ups and a lot of this and it. And there's a lot. Sometimes there's overkill with the amount of photos as well. And you know, think about the structure of your photos, Kerin. This is the bugbear of yours. You know, the flow of your. Think about how you would walk around the property possibly and arrange the photos in that order. I've seen you've seen listings and it jumps from the bedroom to the bathroom to the kitchen and then out to the garden and then back to the kitchen and then the living room and then back up to the same bedroom, and it's like, hold on a minute. And it's very confusing. It's quite off-putting, and you would actually find somebody looking at that listing would maybe swipe past because it's so frustrating.
Creating that, like you say, that flow through the property can be a lot more beneficial, and even just the quality of the photos as well. Like, I mean, you see some and it's like there's thumbs on the side of the lens. It's like just your photos, as we've said, the photos are the ones that are going out for anybody to see. So making sure that you have the right listing, that's the person's first impression of the property. So you need to make sure you've got the right list in there, and the photos are a key point. And your description as well, making sure your description's eye-catching, it covers everything a tenant needs to know. It's got all the details there, and it's accurate as well. So there's no misdescription there.
Yeah, definitely. You're absolutely right. And highlight like your recent, if you've done these upgrades and things, highlight them in the description. Do you know, is it newly renovated? Is it do you know, is it freshly painted? And do you know, say these things in the description. And do you know, put some neighbourhood information. Do you know, we're always like things that are close by that will be relevant, whether it's a park, whether it's a leisure centre, whether it's the retail park, whether it's the train station. Is it next to the seaside? Is it next to the Fife coastal path here in Fife? Do you know, there's a lot of things. Make sure you point out all these things like transport lines and things, and changes in the demographics and that as well. Make sure that's all in there. We are in a very digital society, and video and pictures and things are very much the instant, like, but descriptions very much have their place, and they could really paint that picture as well by having the correct wording and descriptions to accompany the pictures and indeed video and things as well.
Even for yourself as a landlord, I mean, a lot of times people they'll just look at the pictures and the price, and they'll be like, right, that's fine, then they'll come and see it. And it's not until maybe afterwards and they're like, oh, I didn't realise the council tax band. But if you've got that on your list then, as well as the EPC rating, it's both obviously very beneficial for them to see before they come out. But as I say, if they don't refer to that, it's at least then it's a little bit of a fallback to yourself and being like, well, no, look, it's on the list, and you knew what to kind of, granted, you maybe didn't read it, but the council tax band is there. So that's down to a tenant to be able to budget, basically, to accommodate their council tax as well for it.
Yeah, it's really handy having the council tax band in there, although people still ask. But obviously the mandatory things that are in there, you need to have the EPC rating, you need to display the landlord registration number, you need to display the letting agent registration number if it's a letting agent or a managing agent putting it out there. These things need to be in there, and it's amazing how many listings don't have that. And I mean, in reality, it's against the law to advertise a property without these things on the listing. Or if it's something like an EPC rating and things, and it's a new property or it's a new property for let, and you're having that done, it needs to be at least in the process of being carried out. But if there's no intention to have that done, then you can't even let the property without an EPC anyway. But if you have a reputable agent or you're a very knowledgeable landlord and things, you will know that anyway. But that brings me on to something, and maybe a bit controversial, but consider whether your agent or your managing agent, your letting agent and things, do you know, does their profile really promote or what their promotion, will it reflect your newly upgraded property, and will their business attract the right tenant, or does it warrant maybe looking elsewhere and finding a better option? Do you know, if you've just spent possibly X amount of thousands on a property and had it in really good condition, what kind of tenants do you know, look at what your tenants that your agent is attracting, and is that who you are going to end up with? Is that who you want to have in your newly renovated property? That's something to think about. And I mean, it can be a bit controversial, but I'll put it out there. You know, some agents don't attract the best tenants.
Yep, as we say, what you put out, get that.
I can't have even thought of that, but that's exactly right. Yes, definitely.
And ultimately, you want a happy tenant. Obviously, you want a happy landlord. Your landlord is your client, but as an agent and as a landlord, you have a duty of care to your tenant, and you do want happy tenants, and that's what we want. Obviously, we've really refined our referencing procedure. So, I mean, ultimately, you can't make any 100% guarantees. Nobody has a crystal ball when it comes to this, and even the nicest tenant can take a turn. But you do have to take as many steps and carry out as many checks as possible in that first place to eliminate as much risk as you can, because your property is one of your biggest investments, so you wouldn't want to put the wrong person in for it.
Yeah, it's probably the most the biggest your biggest tax-free asset, and you're going to put it out there and let someone live in it. So
Or even just if you've not gotten the right market in as well, if you spent all this money doing it all up, it's like, do you really want, is that how you want your property being portrayed if you're not getting, like we say, the best pictures, the best description all put together for it? But on the flip side, have your property ready. If you know an agent's coming around to do listing pictures, have it ready. I mean, the amount of things that we've had to tidy away over the years, and it's like, did they really want us to do photos like this? So take that into consideration as well when you're doing it. I mean, even today I've been tidying up stuff, tucking things in cupboards, because we take pride in obviously what we do, and we want our listings to be the best that they can be. So sometimes that does mean tucking some bits and pieces away.
Yeah, definitely. And you want to put the best out there. An exceptional presentation supported by that, that striking marketing that's available, and the way that you capture the attention and you achieve that full income from potential candidates and tenants. It's those improvements that you've made that will be able to achieve that and really capture the attention of these really good tenants. But you need to have the correct strategy and place, and presentation as the beginning of that for anything.
Yeah, so obviously reviewing your rental strategy is going to be key, especially if you know your property is going to be coming empty. So the time between the tenancies presents a unique opportunity to step back and assess your overall rental strategy with a firm focus on the business side of your investment. It can be easy just getting caught up in the day-to-day, like, the rent's coming in each month, that's fine, but it's good to be able to take that step back and really take a look at things for your either your single property, your portfolio, whichever it is. Regardless of how many properties you've got, 1, 10 plus, it's good to take a step back and have a look at where you're standing with it. So things to do within this time is obviously research comparable rental homes in your town. Now, Fife in general is very pockety. It can even go from street to street. So even doing things such as asking agents for a fresh perspective and advice when your property is empty, will make upgrades easier. So, like I say, Fife market's very different for different villages, different times. So making sure you're looking at properties that are relevant to you. We've had this before. Landlords will pull up and they think they should get X amount for the rent, and it's because their comparisons have not been relevant to their property, and it gives a bit of a false expectation of what you think you can get. So making sure you're doing your market research correctly, or speaking to the right people that can give you the best advice on it. Yeah,
being realistic about what you have and where it is, and listening to an experienced agent about where the market is at the moment and what kind of tenants are looking. And if you're if they're expecting a certain price point and you're an agent and you know that it's going to struggle at that level, being able to demonstrate to them why with previous experiences and good comparables and things as well. Your agent should be able to do that, and if they can't, then you've got an issue or an inexperienced agent.
Yeah, whenever we go out, we always bring our comparisons out for whatever property we're going to, so we can demonstrate to our landlords why we're giving them the rental value that they should be. Yeah. I remember before I did this job, I thought agents just came out and had a wee look and they were like, right, this is what it'll be, but you don't realize.
Some people do, Kerin.
But you don't realize the back work that does go into it, like the research that we do before we come out, the comparisons, our market knowledge, there's a lot of different factors that goes into where we get our rental values from. We don't just pluck them out of thin air like maybe some people do, because you do see some rents and it's like, where did you get that from? So
but there are some instances, and obviously, and like I say, if you've got a good agent, they'll explain this to you, where possibly at a certain rent level, I would say to them, well, you will get someone and you can achieve that rent level, but the longevity of that tenancy will not withstand.
How sustainable is it?
Yeah, the person coming in probably won't be able to sustain that in terms of affordability, and so it's been realistic about things as well, especially if you've got someone who especially like buy-to-let investors and things who are trying to build a portfolio. They don't want lots of turnover and void periods, and although we're obviously talking about the benefits of what you could do in these void periods, you don't really want a lot of turnover. You want high occupancy rate, you want happy tenants, you want tenants that are comfortably paying the rent and a rent level that covers your costs. So it's not always pushing for the highest rent you could achieve, because it's not to say you can't achieve it, but is it the right strategy?
Yeah, and like you say, ultimately you don't want these void periods, but good to know how to actually maximize that and make it work in your favor for it. So ultimately, you don't want them very often, but when they do come around, it's good to know the different things and way you can obviously benefit and get more money coming in for your property, maximize on your investment there.
Yeah.
But as well, things such as reflecting on your ideal tenant, what demographic that you're going for, are there specific features or benefits you could highlight or introduce to attract them more efficiently? So like we say, like if you're wanting somebody maybe older, do you have, for example, a nice big walk-in shower cubicle that's going to be suitable for them? If you're wanting a family, do you have a bath that's going to be suitable for kids to go in? So just different things. And again, if you're going to be doing up a bathroom and maybe doing that more extensive work, when you are fitting a bathroom, what kind of tenant do you want? What's going to be beneficial for you to put in that time?
Yeah. Yeah.
And reviewing your finances for cost or tax efficiencies. So a rental void is also an excellent time for a valuer to visit for remortgaging at a lower rate.
Yeah, definitely. If you're going to be spending X amount on upgrades and renovations and things, at that point, definitely take the opportunity to have the property valued and see where your value sits in comparison to what your purchase price was, and potentially opening up that opportunity to release some equity and then reinvest, especially if you're building a portfolio. That's your opportunity to do that.
So treat vacant spells as a strategic pause. So with an optimized property, finance and target market, perhaps even a new managing agent, it could give you a more streamlined and stress-free experience.
Yes, definitely. And I think, like we say, void periods are often viewed as quite a negative thing. Nobody wants the property empty, but are you ready to turn that void period into a bit of value? The time between tenancies can perfectly be positioned for your property to go into that next successful tenancy, and all these things that we've covered today could really help elevate your property and get it to be more profitable, and possibly obviously get that more a bit of a value out of that void period, than rather looking at it as a loss or as I say, as the name says, a void period. It can be used as an opportunity. So hopefully we've covered quite a lot of really helpful tips for anyone who's facing a void period or the property's empty and thinking that it's such a negative thing. Flip it round, use it to your advantage, use it as that opportunity to really spruce up the property, get better tenants, make it more profitable, have happier tenants, and ultimately longer tenancy the next time round.
Yeah, definitely some good tips that we've covered here. But if there is anything that you're not sure, or if you're not sure if it's going to be viable to do in your property, let us know. We're happy to help.
Yeah. Like you say, think about what tenant you've got going in there and what things you could do, and your area that you're in, and what kind of realistic rental value you could achieve. But as usual, any questions, jump in the comments. If it's a rerun, jump in the comments. You could reach out to us directly in the message box, and we'll be happy to help with any questions that you have. And until next time, Kerin and I will see you then. And thanks for joining me, Kerin. That was really good for running through that this morning, and have a nice weekend.
Hope everyone has a good weekend.
Thanks.